think with CMT, life is so frustrating. This morning I fell in the car park, not badly, as you can see, but it's things like going to the garage and realising you can't get your dust caps off, and then you cook a meal at night and you fall onto the oven, and you can't get the milk cans off the milk, or you can't open the marmalade little pot in the morning. And it's those simple things that are so frustrating. And I think it's how you deal with those. I think it's important not to give in to these things and become frustrated, so you become like negative about life. But I think it's easy to be that way. And I think sometimes, it is very, very hard with CMT, which, just on the simple terms, the things you do in life. And I think that's why it's so difficult. Have you any advice for such sad people like me?
Well, I would be humbled by the way people cope with it, because the last person that can say advice about that is someone that doesn't have the condition. I think that is what makes CMT, quite difficult for patients. It's a chronic disease that every single day and most hours of every day there is a challenge, be it a small one or a big one. And it's the little things, like I often say, one of the causes of fatigue. If I wake up in the morning and there's no milk in the fridge, you either jump in the car or you run up to the shop and there's milk. If someone with CMT wakes up and there's no milk, it may mean putting on orthosis, getting out of a wheelchair, or it'll take it much longer, much more fatiguing. So I think attitude, if you have a chronic condition for which there is no medical treatment, there is no choice but to put up with it and make the best of it. Different people's way of coping with that are very different. So some people refuse to see any doctors, refuse to see anyone, and that's how they find it works. And that's fine, because all we do is advise. Some people find being involved, say, in patient organisations and sharing experiences and sharing ways of getting around things are very useful. And some people ignore it unless there's a problem. But I think it's individual ways of doing it. It's a very individual thing. I think some people benefit from counselling. I think sometimes there are different times of your life. I think teenagers, about 16, 17, 18, when they're beginning to become independent, often don't like engaging with medical profession and don't like quite a lot of things. And that may be a time. We now have set up a transition clinic from about 12 to 21, just to try to get people through that period. So I think then people can need help. I think sometimes people, when they're about to have a family or have just had a family, may need help. And I think there's a time, on average, in the 50s to early 60s in most patients with CMT life, it varies, where it's not that you suddenly get worse, but that just a combination of little bits can make mobility much more difficult. And that's a time where a little difference, like the time people sometimes make the decision about retirement or about changing the amount they do per day. So I think it's an individual approach. I completely agree with you that, mind over matter helps, but I would never criticise anyone who has major difficulty dealing with it, because everyone is different.